Due to ShowPro's aggressive copyright takedown policy, this re-upload will be audio only, with the fully edited version available to my patrons, link in the description below. And finally, we've come to the most recent film in the Pokemon franchise, Pokemon I Choose You. The announcement that this would be a remake of Ash and Pikachu's first adventures together was a huge shock to the community, and it brought both excitement at the thought of re-experiencing those tender first moments, as well as anxiety as we learned just how much that initial story was being changed for this movie, with the total absence of Misty and Brock being a huge point of contention. So, did the latest Pokemon film manage to match the heights of its predecessors? Let's take a look. As I already mentioned, the film stands as a hard reboot of Ash's origins and tells how he met Pikachu for the first time. Once that's finished, however, it moves into an entirely new story. After Ash and Pikachu's encounter with Ho-Oh, Ash receives a Rainbow Wing, a sign that Ho-Oh has chosen Ash as a trainer whom he deems worthy of battling. Ash and Pikachu then begin a journey towards Ho-Oh's nest in order to challenge this powerful Pokemon of legend, meeting tons of new people and Pokemon along the way. There are so many things that I immediately loved about this movie. Most notably, it handles its nostalgia effortlessly. Rather than beat you over the head like Mastermind of Mirage Pokemon, I Choose You's nostalgia is mostly very subtle. One of my favorite points is how the two Pokemon League trainers battling at the very beginning are actually two of the trainers from Mewtwo Strikes Back. It's the simple things like that that make the nostalgia work so well here. What's more, all of the old story beats that the film reuses from the TV series are revamped without losing their original intent. It condenses Ash and Pikachu's first meeting to about half its original size, but doesn't lose any impact. As the story goes on, old friends show up again in different ways, and each nugget of nostalgia is retooled perfectly to fit the new story. I also like that the goal for this film is much more personal for Ash. Saving the world from destruction is nice and all, but Ash actually choosing to go after Ho-Oh makes the journey overall so much more satisfying and further strengthens Ash as a protagonist. I was very skeptical about the new characters that replace Misty and Brock, but they turned out pretty solid as well. They don't really stand out much aside from brief glimpses of their backstories, but they definitely feel like complex three-dimensional characters. And honestly, I kinda like that they only got a brief bit of focus. This is Ash and Pikachu's story after all, so the movie should definitely be focused on them, and it absolutely nails that point. Not only that, but it adds in so much extra information to enrich both the main story and the Pokemon world as a whole. I also really liked Cross, the new antagonist for this movie. Yes, he's mean-spirited and cold, but he isn't overly evil either. He just doesn't see being friends with Pokemon as having any value in their training, and his dialogue reflects this very well without going overboard. This also sets up a great ideological battle between him and Ash as they encounter each other throughout the film. Admittedly, there are a couple minor issues. Most notably, Marshadow's role as the new legendary Pokemon is a bit odd. It works well at first as a sort of guide/temptation character, but then it does something at the climax that seems totally out of left field. It's like they needed something to instigate the final battle, and that's just what they came up with. Granted, that climax is absolutely massive as well as hugely emotional, so I'm not too upset. My other big complaint is a low point that Ash experiences after a battle with Cross. It just feels like they went a little too far with some of his emotions. I get that he's a kid and kids say hurtful things sometimes, but it still kind of bothers me a bit. Once again, however, the sequence that follows this more than makes up for it, though I will say that said sequence feels really bizarre and borders on just not fitting in the movie at all, but its message and intent manages to sell me on its existence. The animation for this film is simply stellar. Great color work, fantastic Pokemon designs, and tons of moments that are just epic and awesome. There's also a ton of detail put into the backgrounds and character designs. One of my personal favorites was how the Celadon gym is covered in solar panels because grass types and eco-friendliness and such. There is still quite a bit of CG, but it's mostly confined to the set designs like in X and Y. And when we get CG Pokemon, the camera keeps them out of focus so as not to distract us. As for the soundtrack, Shinji Miyazaki pulls out yet another fantastic score. The tracks reused from the TV series have new life imbued into them, and the movie original tracks are just as strong and add powerful emotions to each scene. It's just a great soundtrack overall and one of the best from this franchise. I'm not gonna lie, this might be my favorite Pokemon movie so far. After re-watching the entirety of Pokemon's theatrical filmography, not even the classics managed to match the raw emotions of I Choose You. You see, the thing I love the most about this film is that it's all about the thing that I personally love the most about Pokemon as a whole. Having fun and interacting with Pokemon as you go on a grand adventure together. The biggest appeal of Pokemon is being able to capture, train, and become friends with hundreds of different cool and powerful creatures, and this movie absolutely nails that point. Pokemon I Choose You has set an incredibly high bar for all future films, and if this is an indication of things to come, then I can't wait to see what the next 20 years have in store. Thanks for watching, everyone. We've finally reached the end of Pokemon Month. At least that's what I would say if we didn't have one day left in February. So, tune in again tomorrow when I'll be counting down my top 10 favorite Pokemon films. Special thanks to Jan Rogalski, Rourke Tinjoin, JJJ User, Kushina Minami, and all my other patrons for their generous support. My name is Ember, and I'll see you next time.